advocates have gone to conservative states and liberal states alike. They've gone to the legislature. They've presented them with opinion polls saying, hey, oftentimes 80% of the population supports these measures. You get a level of agreement you can't find on any other issue. Everyone says, yeah, this is wrong. They show that to politicians, and the politicians say, I'm not interested. This is just, this is something I'm not willing to deal with.
I'm interested in this particularly because it's a controlled experiment of what the people said versus another law. It happens to have been Florida specific, and I talked about it on a prior week's podcast, which is why it interested me to ask you about this. So I don't know if you're familiar with this. You must be. I mean, this is an area you're following closely. There's a company called Memphis Meats. Have you heard of Memphis Meats?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So I actually met their founder years ago while we were racing cars. Like literally, we were like a car racing event. It was fun. He and I got paired, and he was telling me about his company. I was telling him about my company. I was a biotech CEO at the time. And so we're like literally racing cars down the winding cliffs of California. It was awesome. We had a great time. So I stayed in touch, watched this company. Apparently it's done pretty well. And what they're doing is they're basically engineering meat for, nutritive value. They claim for taste, for other reasons that might be commercial in nature. They're not killing animals to do it, but they're using cells derived from animals. So they're from the animals, but that doesn't require torturing or killing them. But they actually make what they claim to be. I've no idea whether or not, I can't vouch for the factual specifics of the product, but could in the long run, and there's other companies like them that are making meat that could be better than normally derived meat from factory farming or from other forms of traditional meat production. And what I thought was fascinating was, so this is just a food that's out there. Maybe you want it, maybe you don't. It's being served as a delicacy in some restaurants across the country, as I understand from reading the news and knowing the guy who I've stayed in touch with where they are. But then I wake up one day and see that the state of Florida, the same state where the ballot measure went to the people to say that we're against certain practices used in factory farming, where the people of Florida, hard red Florida, have said they're against it, and I would have voted accordingly as well. That is the same state that actually banned, just like outright banned, the sale of any lab-based meat or any engineered meat from being sold. So not to say that you get to choose to do it, but to say that actually you don't have the choice as a consumer in the free state of Florida to be able to make that choice, which I thought was fascinating because it's the same state that actually went in the other direction when it came to this other question on factory farming. So what do you make of all of that? Because I think it's just so interesting.
Yeah, I think these state bans on the sale of grown meat are just crazy. I mean, they're so obviously.
How many are there?
Well, there are two states that have already done it. So Alabama is the other one.
Okay.
And there are a whole bunch of states that have got bills in the legislatures now. So there are a whole bunch of these states where it's in the legislature. And
what's the argument for it? You're a guy who can always offer the argument for the other side. What's the best argument for it?
Well, I mean, honestly, they've been transparent about it. The argument is that this is bad for the incumbent industry. I mean, this is.
Are you kidding me? So it's not that it's going to be like unhealthy for people, or there's some sort of like health.
There's been a little bit of that, but I mean, also if you go and look at the legislative session in Florida where they were deliberating this, there was no pretense. I mean, there was a little bit of like, oh, this hasn't been tested by the FDA or something, but like mostly
suddenly we all want everything to be tested by the FDA. Interesting how that works.
That's the key thing,
the
right?
failed drug administration. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise it was really just saying this is going to hurt an incumbent industry. This is bad for my constituents.
I mean, we have a name for that. It's not called capitalism. It's called crony capitalism.
Yeah.
Okay, you have laws that are designed to protect an industry from competition.